It's showtime.
It's the pre-party with J. Cal.
We are professional wrestling.
I'm building an alliance.
You are tuned into
the absolute top of the mountain, the ultimate professional wrestling.
Alliance-wrestling.com.
Welcome to the pre-party, a presentation of Alliance-wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. I'm your host, Jake, and the United Wrestling Network. Let's not forget the United Wrestling Network, because I really feel like they give us a heck of a lot more to talk about as of late than the NWA does. But welcome to the show. We have another exciting hour packed for you. Well, is it packed? I don't know. We'll find out soon. I do want to say hey to everybody in the chat. Willie Bowen, Jimmy LB, Sweet Vanilla, Terry McDermott, Wrestling with MMA. Welcome, guys. Again, it's always a blast to have you guys here on Tuesdays, where we talk NWA professional wrestling. We talk United Wrestling Network, and we do take some of your commentary. So let's talk about Saturday. Let's talk about professional wrestling on Saturday. Let's talk about the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion in Omaha, Nebraska. The first time since 1991. Thank you, Dr. Robert Stinson, for that little tidbit. Let's talk about the National Wrestling Alliance bringing the 10 pounds of gold to Omaha, Nebraska. For the promotion is Magnum Pro Wrestling. Now, we've talked a little bit about Magnum Pro Wrestling over the course of the past few weeks, and basically to say that Magnum Pro Wrestling has in the past booked Scrap Iron Adam Pearce as the NWA World Champion back in 2012. We talked about Jaysin Strife challenging Nick Aldis. Last week we efforted to play a video from Jaysin Strife that the audio didn't quite run with it. But the match itself, guys, was really, really good. And let me rephrase that. Really, really good. The match was good. The match was perfectly fine. What I liked most about the match was I was able to see it. You can see it too. You could see the match if you go to the YouTube page for Magnum Pro Wrestling, and that would be youtube.com/Magnum Wrestling, and they have the full match up there available for you to see, as well as the entire event. And already over 680 people have watched that match, and I feel like that's very important, because I think that says something, guys, without actually verbalizing it. I think it says that the people want to see the NWA. More so, that people want to see the 10 pounds of gold. More so, people want to see Nick Aldis. Yes, Wrestling with MMA, that Nick Aldis. And even though that the crowd was very much behind Nick Aldis in the beginning of the match, mostly that was Jaysin Strife's house. As I was saying earlier on, Magnum Pro Wrestling had in the past booked Scrap Iron Adam Pearce to defend the 10 pounds of gold. It wasn't in Nebraska, but it was in their other home, Council Bluffs, Iowa. And he actually defended that title against Tony Cortez, one of the founding fathers of Magnum Pro Wrestling. Magnum Pro Wrestling actually held an event here in Southern California once. Jaysin Strife brought the company out here to Southern California, partnering with SoCal Pro Wrestling, and they did a lot of they did some crossover booking to bring, that look and feel of Magnum Pro Wrestling, but featured a lot of Southern California talents. And then furthermore, we could also talk about the fact of the matter that Jaysin Strife has competed in the NWA multiple times over the course of the last 10 years, whether it be wrestling for the NWA Midwest territory, where he was at one point the Midwest X Division champion, or appearing on Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. He had been but he'd been a part of the NWA on and off for the last, 10 years. So it was cool to see this match happen. It was cool to see Nick Aldis in true Nick Aldis form. I don't feel like he took the night off, guys. I really feel like he went out there and put on a heck of a match, and that's saying something. Because again, when you're the world's heavyweight champion on a night where you're wrestling a guy who's, about almost a foot smaller than you, and you give up almost 100 pounds to the guy, it'd been real easy to come in there and just, roll with the punches and just kind of go with the flow. But Aldis actually took this match seriously. There was a lot of back and forth. Of course, the match was dominated by Aldis, but that doesn't mean that Jaysin Strife didn't get his offense in. It doesn't mean that Jaysin Strife didn't have his opportunity to get in there. But ultimately, I think it was really good for the NWA to have this title match. Now, the thing that boggles my mind about the title match is that, well, how come the NWA didn't promote it? Now, I brought this up on the This is the NWA podcast Discord channel. They started talking about, we all kind of collectively were talking about this title match, but the NWA did almost nothing. In fact, they did nothing to promote this title match. And I'm not exactly sure why. I don't understand the appeal of that, or what's the rationale. There were people who were posting on the NWA forums on Facebook, hey, if I knew this match was taking place in my hometown, I would have been there. I didn't know. Now, again, that's kind of indicative of how much promoting that Magnum Pro Wrestling did, or lack thereof, because there are people in that neighborhood, that walk of life, that didn't even know that match was happening. And again, I don't think Facebook is the end-all, be-all, but if I am a wrestling promoter and I'm spending extra money, extra cash to bring in the world's heavyweight champion, then I would have flooded every Facebook page with the initials NWA, with the match listing, when it was going to happen, how much tickets were, how people could watch it live, how people could watch it on demand, how people could watch it on Twitch. I would have gone the extra step. So I do partially blame Magnum Pro Wrestling for not trying to capitalize on the attention that this title match would have brought to that area. Now, keep in mind, folks, they streamed it live on Twitch, and that's pretty good. I mean, I think that would be a great way for any wrestling promotion to get some eyeballs on it. If you're not doing a traditional pay-per-view, there's only so many tickets you can sell to the event live. There's only so many DVDs you could sell, but doing that live feed certainly brings eyeballs to the table and makes us more, the collective wrestling universe, aware that you exist. And I know a lot of people who are watching that match live, not just that match, but the entire card. Now, I'll be honest, I didn't watch the entire card. I watched a match or two before, and I didn't even watch any of the matches after. I really was there to see Aldis versus Strife. And again, was this match of the year candidate? No. But it was a step better than what you'd see like on NWA Power. Again, Jaysin Strife got in some offense. It wasn't completely one-sided, but Nick Aldis should be the guy that he's much, much taller than, and much, much stronger than, and much, much heavier than. And if he would have lost, I mean, of course that would have broke the internet, but I think more importantly, it would have hurt the NWA for sure. And I just lost my camera, so what happened there? Okay, well, I'm back for now. So, I mean, I see some of your comments. We'll get to that right now. Let's talk about the title match. Jimmy says it was a good match and a hilarious amount of hate for Strife. Hey, Dave Scooby, welcome to the show. Lamb says, so thank God fans can enjoy it and not a fan cam. Yeah, I mean, the first version I saw was the fan cam version, so I wasn't sure what was available out there. Wrestling with MMA says it was a Nick Aldis match. He didn't care for it anyways, but he doesn't care for Nick Aldis. Willie Bowen, he's saying hi. Lamb says he agreed with the wrestling from MMA. A very typical Aldis match lately, very solid, nothing special. Yeah, I mean, it was very pedestrian, and that's not to say that there's anything wrong with that. Honestly, my only two gripes about it were that maybe Aldis looked a little rusty, which, I mean, that doesn't shock me. He only wrestled 5 title matches last year, and his last match was in early December. So that doesn't shock me that he's got a little bit of rust to it, but hopefully this is a precursor of things to come. And of course, that leads me to the next topic. And that was, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but our man Nick Aldis, Wrestling with MMA's favorite wrestler, Nick Aldis, was on a podcast this week. It was called the Wrestling's Cool podcast, and discussed all things pertaining to his time with Impact Wrestling, the launch of the 10 pounds of gold, the NWA, and a whole lot more. Now, besides sounding very braggadocious and maybe a little egotistical, there was a couple of notes that I wanted to point out on this episode. And one of those for certainly is that his conservative estimate is that the NWA Power should be back by spring. Now, we'd all love NWA Power to be back. Of course, the NWA famously retweeted William Patrick Corgan's Instagram post back in September saying that Power would be back. So I'm not going to hold a lot of stock in anything. Essentially, I'm tired of hearing about the pregnancy. I want to see the baby. I don't want to hear any more about the growing pains. I don't want to hear any more about the struggles that they're going through. Everybody's going through these same struggles. Everybody's having these same lack of opportunities, if you will. And everyone else seems to find a way around it. So, I mean, if it's spring, it's spring. If it's, that's the conservative guess, it's spring. But I'm tired of waiting. They've had enough time. Serene Deeb, either she was misinformed, or the plans got scrapped or changed, or she was misled altogether. But they were expecting January, and I think a lot of us were hoping for January, but realistically, if the NWA had an opportunity to promote a live event, we would know it. We would know it as soon as it gets announced. And unfortunately, they're not there yet. And that's really, really trying, and it's really, really disappointing because the NWA as we know it, I don't know, man. I don't know what they're going to do. More of your comments. Jimmy from the LB said, not even local promotion. That's disappointing. And Jimmy, I'll be honest, I'm not in Omaha, so I don't know what kind of local promoting they did. We're also in the middle of winter, so I don't know if they were flyering. I don't know if they were handing out flyers. I'm not sure exactly what they were trying to do. But I see DKM has joined us. I don't know exactly what kind of promotional route they took, but I think, I don't know if it's a byproduct of the modern day wrestling promoter, but you can't just post an event on Twitter or Facebook and expect people to show up. You have to mix the old and the new. You have to mix, handing out flyers and local advertising, literally going to the liquor store, the grocery store, the laundromat, and putting up flyers wherever you can, as well as on social media, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, engaging with that audience, engaging with those fans. Nick Aldis is a very polarizing figure, but he's a very established wrestling personality. There are no less than 1,000 NWA messages, forums, groups, if you will, on Facebook. Find them, engage them. Hashtag NWA fam is very easy. You just click that out on any social media and you can engage with NWA fans. And I really feel like they missed a huge opportunity to do that. They missed a very big opportunity. Now, I mean, their social, that show also was produced under, CDC guidelines. They made sure that it was socially distanced. People were supposed to be masked up, but it is what it is. DKM points out that the Magnum Pro Wrestling said that the show was sold out. I mean, they did have decent attendance. I don't want to discourage that. I got into an argument with somebody on Facebook about that show, And they were so disappointed to see the NWA in like a rec hall or like a small little convention area. But let's be realistic. Ric Flair defended the 10 pounds of gold in high school gyms. It's not just what indie wrestling's done. It's been what's done for many, many years. So I find that it's hard for people to believe that like the NWA didn't just disappear. It didn't just go away. It's been around forever. And I'm sorry, I just had to check something real quick. Sorry, guys. Okay. So wrestling, DKM is saying they claimed 400, and I mean 400 isn't bad. And then it had, like I said, over 600 views on YouTube. I know that Twitch stream was popping. There was a lot of the hashtag NWA fam. I saw DKM was there. I saw Gary Horn watching live, and I'm sure there was a couple more of you there who saw either live or watched it on demand with YouTube. So I think that's pretty cool. But maybe it could have been better. And now Willie Bowen says he'd rather see Nick Aldis in a wrestling match than any boring WWE matches. I like good wrestling. I love good wrestling. And I'll search out good wrestling and I will find it. And the NWA isn't everybody's cup of tea, and that's okay. The WWE isn't everyone's cup of tea, and that's okay. I've always described professional wrestling as 31 flavors of Baskin Robbins, right? There is a flavor for you if you want it. If you want wrestling, there's a flavor. Do you like comedy? You could find that. You want death matches? You could find that. You want traditional style wrestling? Great, they have that. You want more storytelling? They have that. You want more like a worked sport? They have that too. Wrestling has always been like that. So I always feel like not to get discouraged when that happens, because ultimately you're going to find the wrestling you want to find. And you guys are blowing up the comments now. DKM says Magnum Pro was a popular search on Facebook when he looked for them. That's great. Traductus, am I saying that right? Please correct me if I'm not. He says, first, it's been worth the wait. The NWA has been in worse shape. It's not going to be going anywhere. I agree. I feel like the NWA really is, I don't want to say it can make the wrong move. It can mess up. But I feel like the NWA has very forgiving fans, if that makes sense. I feel like for the most part, the NWA, they don't necessarily have a pass to do whatever they want, but they have built up this audience in the last 3 years that kind of borrows from the legacy of yesteryear, that gives them a little bit of leeway. So if they didn't promote very many events last year, again, 5 NWA World Title matches, really only 2 shows, or 3 shows, the pay-per-view and the 2 shows, TV tapings following. They have a little carte blanche to do what they want. So, yeah, I feel like when they return, the audience will be there. Will it be all 200,000 strong? Probably not. But it should be noted that when Power first hit YouTube, I mean, there was over 250,000 people watching on the very first episode. And if you go and look at those numbers now, over 600,000 people have watched episode 1 of NWA Power. It's like their second highest viewed video. So I do believe that there is an audience there who's hungry for the NWA. Shockwave numbers are still growing. On my last check, it was 110,000 people had watched episode 1 of, I said 110, 190,000 people who've watched the first episode of NWA Shockwave. And now I'm not sure about that numbers. I'm going to go double check it. But the point I'm trying to make is, that they're still growing. They're still having people view product that is old. Okay, excuse me, I was wrong. 114,000 people have seen the last episode of NWA Shockwave. 91,000 people saw the third episode of Shockwave. Just over 100,000 saw episode 2, and 160,000 saw the first episode. So again, the audience continues to grow, and they're still, it's creating value for the NWA. All right, so let me see some more of your comments, because you guys are blowing me up now. Traductus said Steve Corino and Shinya Hashimoto faced off in a title match in a small, dingy gym And honestly, I like the intimate setting of that instead of the WWE arena shows. It's different and not overdone. Absolutely. Like, that show was the epitome of how I feel about indie wrestling. I don't need to have fireworks and sparklers and, Titantrons. I just need good wrestling. And as Jimmy from LB could tell you, we've been to dozens of indie wrestling shows over the years, maybe even hundreds, dare I say. And, the best matches weren't the ones that had, pyros and monitors all over the place. The best matches were the ones that just have the best talent available. So Shinya Hashimoto and Steve Corino, you're going to get your money's worth. If it be Christopher Daniels versus Brian Kendrick or Adam Pearce versus, well, just about anybody, you're going to get your money's worth. So again, when we get back to the NWA, whether it be Nick Aldis versus Tim Storm to kick off the second, right? Is it the third season? Whatever it is for NWA Power, I'm sure there's going to be a huge audience there ready to receive it. Terry McDermott says the NWA champion will go from Buckingham Palace to behind Ernie's crotch. Absolutely. I mean, and that's the thing. Dusty Rhodes said it best. I'm going to butcher the promo, so I'm not even going to try. But, a true champion is going to take that title and defend it anywhere. A true world's heavyweight champion will defend the belt anywhere against any worthy opponent. I don't think he should step in the ring with some J-Brone, right? But I do believe he should be in the ring with some of the most competitive, best wrestlers out there. You look at some of his defenses from last year. Burke. I can't remember his first name. Burke, the show that was in North Pro in Canada last year. That was a beautiful show, a beautiful match. It was perfect for the NWA World's Champion. And then you go fast forward to the Independent Wrestling Expo, where he wrestled against Nobi Bryant. Again, a very, very good athlete, very good talent. Nobi Bryant, again, I hope he's on the NWA's radar because he's a guy that I think helps fill a lot of gaps for them. And then, of course, Mike Bennett at the Championship Wrestling, the Primetime Live episode, another phenomenal match. His match in Grimsley against Flying Brian Pillman Jr. Again, a lot of good stuff. You can't disparage what they did with what they had. I just want more. And I did get your name right, Traducus. Perfect. And then Lamb said the highest view video was Nick Aldis versus James Ellsworth. Yeah, unfortunately it was. It's not the venue. I'm glad NWA Pro Wrestling is active, but arena is good as long as wrestling is good. That's right, man. Willie, you got it. If the wrestling is good, it doesn't matter what venue it's in. Now, I've turned off wrestling when the production's poor. You could have good production and be in a small venue. Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, that venue holds probably, I want to guess, like 400 to 500 people in the stands. I've been to shows where they had superstars in the arena and they had to put chairs out on the floor and really pack that place full. But it's all based on the wrestling. Is the wrestling good? That's what we want. Dave Scooby said the camera work was decent for the match. And I'm assuming you're talking, Scooby's talking about the match in Omaha for Magnum Pro Wrestling. And yeah, they did a great job. And considering that was produced live and they were streaming it live and it didn't rely on just one camera or two cameras, it was done very, very well. And I think people should celebrate Magnum Pro Wrestling. And if you guys do go watch the video, make sure you give them a thumbs up. Make sure you tell them that you were watching to see the 10 pounds of gold and to see Nick Aldis. Okay, Wrestling with MMA, you don't have to say that. But let them know that you appreciate the camera work. Let them know that you appreciate the talent. Because, again, that's how they're going to keep doing this stuff. They need to see that it's paying off. And Willie Bowen says, it will be the third season of NWA Power. Yeah, I thought so. I wasn't entirely sure. DKM says, remember when the police had to escort the Hills in, and especially out of the ring? I mean, we were talking about when Danny Hodge was wrestling, oh God, I know his name. Oh, geez. I can't remember. Savoldi. When Danny Hodge was wrestling Angelo Savoldi, and Hodge's dad jumped to the ring with a knife and stabbed Savoldi. I mean, I remember hearing of the stories about Freddie Blassie here in Los Angeles, and would be wrestling at the Olympic Auditorium and would get cuts on his way out of the ring because they would shank him as he was leaving. So yeah, those were good times. So I got a package in the mail, and I don't know if you guys know this. I'm not a huge memorabilia collector. That's not something I've ever done. I started to do it recently, mostly because my brother found our old AWA wrestling figures, my Ric Flair AWA figure, and it made me like, oh, you know what? I remember all the cool wrestling toys I used to have. So I went out and I got on eBay and I bought the Remco AWA or the end of WCW Ric Flair, excuse me, Galoob, not Remco, Galoob. And I've always loved these figures. I played with them when I was a kid. Of course, when Master Republic were producing these Legends of the Lucha Libre, I had to get that too because Blue Demon Jr. is one of the world champions I got to watch up close and personal. When I first started this journey, he was one of the main guys, and then I bought a bootleg version of him on eBay, but I thought it was pretty cool. But you can tell that head is not the right size. And then also I have one last one. I have my Dan the Beast Severin, complete with sweaty shirt. So I don't normally collect toys, action figures, but I had to get this one. And wrestling with MMA. If you want to jump off, I understand, because I think you might know where this is going. But I had to do this because, number one, they're rare. Number two, he is our world's champion. And I didn't unbox this before. I'm just unboxing it now. But I had to get it. I got the Nick Aldis Action Figure. And yeah, I know it's kind of hokey, and the more I look at it, it's really hokey. But I think it's pretty cool, and so I had to pick one up. It says with King's leading Cloverleaf. I don't get that, but I had to pick one up because I mean, it's pretty cool, right? It says it's for ages 15 and up. I mean, okay. I was a little worried that I wasn't gonna get it because I bought this thing back in back in July, and I was kind of going back and forth with Cella Toys. They would answer one text and then not answer any messages for a few days, and I was, hey man, that's a lot of money. You had to import these, so they charge like, I don't know, like $20 or $25 for shipping, and well. You know, I see Lamb say, congratulations, you bought one. Well, actually, I bought two. Now, this one is going to go to somebody who watches this show. And I don't know exactly how we're going to do it yet, but we're going to give this guy away. Maybe when we hit 500 subscribers. We're at 231 now. So if you want to help join this contest, make sure you like, hit subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Again, this is a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information. If you like the show, if you like what you're hearing, please don't hesitate to subscribe, because we do appreciate your listenership, your viewership. And Lamb says, did you buy it from JB Toys? Lamb, I bought it from Cella Toys directly, but somehow they ended up, I don't know exactly what happened, but they pushed it along to Body Slam Clothing. So Body Slam Clothing is the one who sent it to me, and after I messaged them half a dozen times, we finally got that going. But yeah, so now I have the real world's champion with real megastar action, Nick Aldis. You know, see, if the NWA was smart, they would have partnered with Cella Toys and just did the entire power. I know that sounds crazy, but like I think it would help. And it's funny because you get that made in China sticker right there on the back, so hopefully it doesn't contain hopefully it'll stay in the package regardless. So I thought that was kind of cool. I wanted to share that with you guys. I just now opened it up, and yeah, Lamb, I don't know how I can get one out to you, but you know, it might be cheaper for you to import it from Germany, or yeah, from the UK than it would be for me to send it to you in the United States. But I digress. Of course, if you guys do enjoy this show, we do have merchandise available. Alliance-wrestling.com. There is a merch link. We have hats, t-shirts. I'm not wearing one of them today, but the main reason why is because when you have a green screen behind you, anything green sometimes will fade through. Now that hat didn't fade through, so now I look like a liar, but trust me, I recently just did an interview with Dustin Starr of Championship Wrestling from Memphis, and I didn't realize the hat I had a green bill underneath, and it blended right into the background. Lamb doesn't want the figure. I don't blame you, Lamb. It's not the best figure. It's not, but I think it's kind of cool. I think it's very cool. Yeah. And for anyone who doubts, like, I don't drink. Oh yeah, see, look, the green screen, it goes right through the can, right? Anyways, so yeah, you can check out the merch at alliance-wrestling.com if you want to. You don't have to, but I do appreciate it. I also want to give a shout out to some of our new followers, like Phil Wollathouse. I'm not going to try it, Phil. I'm sorry, but Phil recently followed us on Facebook, and we get those notifications right here. And also, we have a new follower on the YouTube channel, and I don't have his name written down, so I can't recite it, so I apologize. But yeah, we have we're growing, guys, and it's thanks to you. It's thanks to you guys coming in every Tuesday, joining us here on this podcast, or when you listen on Spotify or Amazon or Apple or any podcast station. I really do appreciate you guys checking it out. And so the other bit of news that I think we should discuss is the United Wrestling Network. And the United Wrestling Network recently announced, well, maybe not United Wrestling Network announced, but Dave Marquez announced that he is bringing the United Wrestling Network to Africa. So in that announcement, he mentioned that he has actually promoted sports, wrestling, combat fighting on 6 of 7 continents. Of course, he hasn't done Africa. He hadn't done Africa yet. And of course, he'll never do Antarctica. But I was there when he did the event in China. I was also there when he did the event in Southern California. But he's actually promoted fights and wrestling matches all across the globe. Now, you guys do, like I said, you guys, I'm sure you guys remember the Championship Wrestling from Hollywood special when they took the United Wrestling Network to China. They had a World's Heavyweight title match when Nick Aldis defended against Colt Boom Boom Cabana. Then they also did the United Wrestling Network tag team titles on that show as well. Before that, when Dave Marquez was heavily involved with the National Wrestling Alliances, he had partners with he had events in not only in Europe, but also in South America as well as Australia. The big shows in Australia, they crowned an Australian heavyweight champion, and on those cards they brought in WWE Cesaro, they brought in WWE's Daniel Bryan, of course Rocky Romero, the Real American Heroes, Carl the Machine Gun Anderson, and some other pervert guy, and they did these events globally. The EPW show also had Sean Waltman. It was a really it was a fun event. They broadcasted that live on not live, but they broadcasted it on YouTube later down the road, and that really set up the whole EPW NWA relationship. And that kind of created that that bond between Championship Wrestling from Hollywood and the EPW, Explosive Pro Wrestling, out in Perth. And that also crossed over to the other promotion out there, which would be the other promotion out there. I'm sorry, I'm just getting these. What is going on here? There we go. And that also set up the promotion. That also set up the connection with the Western Australian Group 2, which was for a while NWA Australia, then became affiliated with 01 when they left the NWA. But all the same, Dave Marquez is promoting wrestling shows out there. His partnerships in Europe, which included the IWCA in France, the Catch Wrestling, the partnership they held with NWA Hammerlock, NWA Ireland, exchanging talent between them. And then in Japan, his shows that he was producing here in Santa Monica, California, before New Japan Strong, they actually produced a TV event called Tokon, where they had stars of Ring of Honor along with the NWA compete in on the New Japan television. And the crazy thing about it is it didn't last extremely long. I think it was about 8 or 9 episodes. But I mean, we had Samoa Joe defending the Ring of Honor World Title against Togi Makabe in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Toru Yano briefly teamed with Scrap Iron Adam Pearce to form the Beer and Saki connection. We had Daniel Bryan wrestle Ultimo Dragon, which was an amazing match that never made it to TV because at the time Ultimo was still under contract with the WWE. We had matches with like TJ Perkins as Puma. You know him as Impact's Manic, who's currently the X Division champion, or Rocky Romero, Ricky Reyes, the Havana Pitbulls, Bobby Quance, some other pervert guy. And they brought in a lot of New Japan talent as well, like Nakamura. People don't know Nakamura was wrestling here in the United States under a mask. Minoru Tanaka, former IWGP US champion, not US champion, IWGP Junior Heavyweight champion, also wrestled under the name of Heat. A lot of this talent was actually being produced right here in California for consumption in Japan, and that was 2003, 2004, long before New Japan Strong or any of the new events that are associated with the new New Japan Dojo, which David Marquez is producing those events as well. And then in South America, specifically to Brazil, they were doing Amazon fights. No, it wasn't a show for Amazon Prime, but it was a worked MMA. You might want to call it a worked shoot. But they were doing mixed martial arts in Brazil. They featured Shinsuke Nakamura, Rocky Romero, Webster Delfini, Shibata. So, I mean, there was a mix between New Japan talent and the stars from the Santa Monica Dojo in a worked MMA environment. So again, that was pretty cool. I think that the United Wrestling Network has done all this stuff. I say United Wrestling Network, but I really do mean just Dave Marquez Productions. And of course, them going to Africa is going to be big for the I said NWA. It's going to be big for the United Wrestling Network. We don't know what it means for the NWA. Wow. Hold on a second, Jay. Get something to drink. Take a pause. Your brain's not working. Okay. Now, them going to Africa is going to be huge for the United Wrestling Network because, number one, it's the first time that they're taking their show into that market. Now, again, there's a lot of emerging markets in the world right now. A lot of people are starting to get more and more into wrestling, which is a good thing, which is a great thing. And it means that the United Wrestling Network can be on the forefront. Now, a couple weeks ago, we were talking about how the United Wrestling Network was distributing their show all across the globe now. DCam's mocking me. Thank you, DCam. The show's being distributed in Mexico. I know that they're trying to get the show distributed in Jerusalem. They're trying to get the show distributed in Italy, in maybe not China, maybe China. I don't know. But they're trying to go for international markets. You got to remember, there's over 500 episodes of just championship wrestling from Hollywood. That's the stuff you guys know about that's been on for the last 10 years. But again, the aforementioned Tokon TV series, the NWA Showcase, the original championship wrestling from Hollywood, the live events that they were doing on not pay-per-view, but on demand on the for DVD sales. All that stuff was taped, and it's all just in the can. We're talking about featuring the talents of like Carl the Machine Gun Anderson. We're talking about matches with AJ Styles, matches with Christian Cage, matches with I keep wanting to call him Fergal Devitt because I can't think of his WWE, Finn Balor. Matches with Adam Pearce. So much content, so much star power. Samoa Joe, CM Punk, all these matches, TJ Perkins, Rocky Romero, Shinsuke Nakamura, all of these shows that Dave Marquez has just been sitting on. So if they're getting international distribution rights, it only makes sense that the show starts going internationally. And this could set up down the road more international tours for United Wrestling Network. I mean, they still need to crown a world's heavyweight champion. Well, world's champion, excuse me. We still know that it's either Michael Bennett or Dirty Dickinson, and one of these guys is going to be world champion. So who knows what the future is going to hold for the United Wrestling Network. We don't know if the NWA is going to be a part of this. As Lamb mentioned, PJ Black could be a part of this. For those of you who don't know, PJ Black is from South Africa, so he might have something to add to it. But it would be pretty cool to see, perhaps maybe the NWA partner with United Wrestling Network to present a World's Heavyweight Championship match in Africa. But realistically, I think at this point, the NWA is going to be doing their thing, and United Wrestling Network is going to do theirs. And considering that this show is supposed to happen in the springtime, right around the same time that Nick Aldis has mentioned that that's when Power was going to get back into production, I don't know if there's going to be an opportunity for them to do that, to have Aldis on that show, which is a little bit disappointing, but at the same time, realistic. And of course, if United Wrestling Network has their own champion crowned, what better way to solidify your world champion than by literally having him defend the belt all across the world? So, more of your comments. DCAM says he should do an Antarctica show. He'll be the first. I mean, look, how hard would it be to, get a Princess Cruise Line and just go through Antarctica, do that show off the coast, and there you got it. I mean, I don't know how cold it is in the summertime for them, but we'll see. Willie says, has United Wrestling Network ever done any matches in Italy? The United Wrestling Network has not had any matches specifically in Italy. Blue Demon Jr. as NWA World Champion, which was kind of a product of Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, did defend the title in Italy, but no. The UWN has not had any matches or champions defend in Italy. They did have a connection with the IWCA Catch, which was a French wrestling promotion, and they did feature guys like Daniel Bryan and oh god, what's his name? I forget. It's not that important. But ultimately, they just it never really transcended into a real working partnership, just a recognition of champions. Lamson wants you all to remember that on February 14th, if you're anywhere near Memphis, Tennessee, you need to go and be a part of Championship Wrestling from Memphis, the very first television taping. It's going to be huge. They've already announced some of the stars for the show, and if you tune in on Thursday night, 10 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern, we'll have the interview that I did with Mr. Dustin Starr in its entirety. I think you guys will like it. And he talks all about what's going to happen for the United Wrestling Network in Memphis. Willie says the Primetime Live NWA Pro Wrestling get affiliated with All Japan. I mean, we're still stuck with travel restrictions. That's the other thing. I don't know how they're going to get into Africa when right now we can't even leave the country. I mean, we can get to Mexico. I can go to Mexico, but I can't go to Africa. My trip to Scotland last year was canceled because of this COVID, so I don't know how that's going to happen. Traducus says, wonder if we could spread a hashtag for Aldis to take the belt to Antarctica. And since Corgan was on the Lars Ulrich podcast, he could get in contact with him and ask how one can do a show. I mean, that would be great, right? That'd be historic. And it would be something that probably will never happen again. But I'm not going to hold my breath for it, Traducus. I think it's a cool idea in theory, but I mean, we can't even get shows in Atlanta, Georgia. How we can get shows in Antarctica? As far as Africa goes, South Africa has historically been a pro wrestling. Let me try that again. As for Africa, South Africa has had a history in pro wrestling, so it wouldn't be hard to get that market going again. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And what was it? The Simpson brothers from World Class, I believe, were from South Africa. PJ Black. I mean, the wrestling community is not unaware. Let me rephrase that. South Africa has had a wrestling community. And we talk about the continent of Africa, right? I mean, do you guys remember the story of Great Power Udi? Now, I'm going to butcher it for you here, but one of my favorite stories on that Colt Cabana podcast was when he had Luke Gallows and Cliff Compton on the show. And they were discussing these wrestling shows they were doing in Africa, where essentially, like, the wrestlers were held captive, essentially, more or less. You know, I'm paraphrasing here. And there would be, like, warring tribes would kind of wander in and hold people ransom. But on top of all that, there was a wrestler named the Great Power Udi. And basically, he was a champion of the region, but nobody really is sure how he won those belts. And this guy, like, he just didn't sell. So the famous line, and I'm paraphrasing, guys, and if you have sensitive ears, I apologize, but as Gallows is wrestling against this guy, Cliff Compton screams out, "Kick him in the balls," to which he does. Maybe I have the roles reversed. Maybe it was Compton in the ring and Gallows on the outside. And even then, Power Udi hardly sells it. And I don't know, maybe that would be a great match. Maybe the winner of the United Wrestling Network Championship can take on the Great Power Uti. Terry McDermott says he plans to go to Memphis this summer and maybe Texas to see SWE Fury. Terry, I think those are two really good shows to check out. I feel like SWE Fury is really kind of getting into their groove. Some of the talent that they're using, Charlie Haas, Jack Stain, former NWA World's Heavyweight Champion, of course, Tim Storm, Rodney Bigard, a.k.a. the Big Dog, Red Dog, Thunder Rosa. I mean, they've been using a very good mix on that roster, and I feel like that show is getting better and better. And then, of course, I think Memphis is going to be... I don't know for sure what the plans are with Memphis. I know they're going to try to use more localized talent, meaning they're not going to use a lot of Hollywood guys, but there are some great talents in Tennessee. Furthest I've ever been to Memphis was I was in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I know that's like about an hour and a half drive from Nashville, so I don't know who's going to be able to compete in Memphis, and I know it's a new show, so they're going to have restrictions when it comes to the talent that they're able to afford to use, but I would love to see some of those guys like the Carnies. I would love to see somebody like, it's his birthday today, Eric Andrews, former NWA National Champion. I think he would be a great addition to the roster. Of course, we're not in the state of Tennessee. You can't forget about Innovative Pro Wrestling and the talent that they use, and perhaps maybe that some of those guys would come over and work for the Memphis show as well. Lamson says, with David Marquez and his crew producing New Japan Strong, it is more likely than the UWN World title would be defended on New Japan Wrestling Kingdom, like the ROH titles and Rev Pro titles, than on All Japan Pro Wrestling. Yeah, Lam, it's kind of an interesting situation, especially because you brought up Wrestle Kingdom, and Wrestle Kingdom has always featured international titles, like you said, the Rev Pro title, the British Heavyweight Championship. In the past, they featured the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship. And I could see a world where the United Wrestling Network champion, be it Mike Bennett or Chris Dickinson, defend on New Japan Strong. I mean, think of the roster that New Japan Strong is putting together. They have Team Fury, which is half of the NWA Tag Team Champions, JR Kratos. half the United Wrestling Network Tag Team Champions in Danny Limelight, and then Filthy Tom Lawler, and I believe they just added Chris Dickinson to that group. Dickinson has a shot to be the World United Wrestling Network champion, so that it'd be very easy to see him defend on that program, especially when you've got talents like Carl Fredericks, Clark Connors, Kenta, Chase Owens. I mean, it wouldn't be too shocking to see the United Wrestling Network defend that title in New Japan Strong. Now, New Japan Strong and the United Wrestling Network are not associated or affiliated. These aren't even like cross promotions. The fact that they're just using the same talent is simply that. And again, Barrett Brown too. I don't want to leave out our friend Barrett Brown. He's making his return back to New Japan Strong as well. We'll see what happens with that, but that's also very, very exciting. And again, the accolades that the United Wrestling Network World Champion will receive. I mean, already we know that they're going to be able to defend in Memphis. They're going to be able to defend in Hollywood. They're going to be able to defend in Arizona. They're going to be able to defend on Primetime Live when that returns, and the options to maybe defend in New Japan Pro Wrestling or internationally, like in Africa. I think that's pretty freaking cool. Willie Bowen says, basically, United Wrestling Network will probably have their own wrestling territories, just what the NWA had in the 70s and 80s. Yes, 100%. 100%. That was the plan, Willie. That's the plan all along. The whole idea that the NWA went away from the territory system, Dave Marquez doubled down on the territory system. Now, he's had struggles. He had opportunities. It took a while to find the right partners, but what they have in Memphis is pretty damn secure. And Dustin and Maria Starr, I talked to Dustin, like I said, we'll play that on Thursday. They've got great partners. Those guys get it. The Starr family, they get it. They're working very, very hard to make Memphis not just a one-off show, not just something that's here today, gone tomorrow, but a staple in Memphis wrestling. And when you talk about Memphis wrestling, you talk about Jerry Lawler or superstar Bill Dundee. All right, but we're ushering a new era in with Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, Championship Wrestling from Memphis, Championship Wrestling from Arizona, United Wrestling Network. You're gonna see some things happen out there in Memphis, and they're gonna keep plugging away until this all kind of materializes. So it'll be interesting to see how things go. But yeah, they are making a territory, and you know what's gonna happen next? When they started Memphis, that was the plan. They rolled out the similar idea in Amarillo, Texas. They planned out the same scenario in Houston, and they did the same scenario in San Francisco. Now, one of those has been working a lot better than the other two. I'll let you figure it out. That's what's going to happen next. That other market is going to break off and do its own thing, very similar to Memphis. And then you're going to have 4 United Wrestling Network territories, including the pay-per-views and now this global touring. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I'm not saying that that's a regular thing, but it could be. And you start talking about a guy like Watts or a guy like Danny Limelight. Yeah, ultimately these guys should be signed. And if Danny Limelight isn't signed by the end of the year, I'll be shocked. But maybe if the United Wrestling Network continues to grow the way it is, maybe they don't need to be signed. Maybe they can just work on this circuit. Spend 1 week in Hollywood, in Long Beach. Spend 1 weekend in Memphis, 1 weekend in Arizona. Or maybe I'm just pulling the cart before the horse. Either way, I think it's very exciting. I think it's a good time to be a fan of both the United Wrestling Network. I think it's a great time to be a fan of the NWA. We're starting to see the traction again. Hopefully, before too long, we'll be talking about them as well. But we're up against the hour, guys. 2 hours and 2 hours? No, 59 minutes in, and we're about ready to wrap up the show. So, again, we will be doing a live broadcast. Not live, excuse me. We'll be doing a taped broadcast this Thursday night, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern, and that's going to feature our interview with Dustin Starr. Man, I'm all over it today. That will be available on our Twitch channel, and then subsequently the day after, it will be made available on our YouTube channel. I hope you guys will check that out. And our Twitch channel is twitch.tv/The Alliance Blog. And of course, the YouTube channel is youtube.com/The Alliance Blog. You can also follow us on all social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, and TikTok at The Alliance Blog. That's how you can find us. Of course, we do have merchandise up at the store right now. Go visit the alliance-wrestling.com, click on merch, and of course, please visit the website. That's what powers all this. When you go and visit that website, read those articles, that really does help push all of this forward, and we couldn't do this without you guys. We really appreciate you checking us in, week out. If you enjoy watching the videos, give us a thumbs up, a like, share it. If you'd rather just listen, you can always check out our podcast as well. And that's at, we're on Spotify, we're on Amazon, we're on iTunes, the Apple Store, whatever it's called. You can check us out there. But that's going to do it for us this week. Thank you again so much for joining us. My name is JCal, and I want you to remember to absorb what is useful, reject what is useless, and what is essentially your own. Have a good night. Oh, have a good night.